Okay, so let's analyze this color, this painting. I want to start with a very easy thing that is kind of easy to layer. So in here, I see that there is a very diffuse, suffuse light all over the place. And because there's a lot of reflection, the same color that I have in the sky, I will have in the water. So also, because this color is very light, I can do this. I can put down a wash of watercolor, even all the yellow that you cover the whole page with this yellow here, and then gradually you see how the horizon has a reddish, pinkish, very, very faint pinkish strip in here, and up here also, right? So what I could do first a layer of this yellow here, and then wet on wet, put a strip of pink in here, and then another strip of pink in here over the yellow, so that it will spread out and diffuse. So after that, because the yellow and the green kind of agree with each other, I could start layering colors over the yellow when it is dry, when it's drier, because you see this these colors in here kind of stay where they are, meaning this is wet on dry. Okay, so at the horizon I'm going to have, let me see if I can bring it closer, colors that are let me see, bluer, grayer, see that? And as I come closer, they're going to be more chromatic. Okay, so so let's see. First, clearly I want to wet all of this with the water the way I told you last week, by using clear water, spreading water all over, so that that color will diffuse itself. So, and pretty much everywhere. So if I had, for example, two areas of different colors, so you have blue sky and I don't know, a yellow sand, I wouldn't do this, right? Because two different colors, maybe too intense, and I would have to put water only where, let's say, the sky is, and leave it alone the sand. And then I would leave that area dry, put the sky down, and then separately do another wash for the sand, right? Makes sense? But in this case, I'm working on water, so that would be perfect for us. So now at this point in here, right, I have my pre-mixed yellow. So I'm not going to use a lot of fancy colors in here, just the colors that we have, right? Although in this, in that watercolor, I used a variety of colors out of the tube to speed up the painting process. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to keep it as simple as possible, using just the color that I advise you, because we want to learn to use those, right? So now here, very, very, so you see how well the wash in here spreads, right? Very, very well. Maybe I want to have a little bit of lighter yellow down here, because of the reflection, and it's not as powerful as the direct color of the sky. So here now, what I could do, I can get some of, I could do one thing before, actually let's do this. Now it's still wet, so let's get some of that red in there, and I want a pinkish red, so I'm going to use the alizarin crimson red, and then I put a quick wash here like this, right? And then now I let it spread, and then I want to find another strip of color here, which would represent the areas where the sun is just set, right? Just so now what I do, I want to leave it alone. I want to let it spread, right? Maybe I'm gonna soften this area here a little bit, right? I'm gonna let it spread, and another thing you could do, you could help the spreading by kind of simply tilting this, right? A little bit like this, right? And the sun here, see that is a glow. And what I did before the paint would dry, I lifted it. I lifted that with a napkin, and maybe you lift more. You lift more in the center, and then the outside, you leave it a little bit. You'll be a little bit more careful in lifting it, right? Don't lift as much, so that you create this sort of glow in there. All right, makes sense? So this is the quick thinking that you have to do when you are outside. And let's say you have only 20 minutes, so don't worry too much. This point about precision is not going to be about precision so much as more about the impression, right? Like impressionist, that's exactly what impressionism mean. The impression of setting sun, for example. You know that originally the term impressionist was used in a derogatory way by a critic that went to see one of the first shows, and one of the painting was the famous impression, the sun setting over the Seine, I guess, and can't remember. And so that critic used the term sarcastically, impressionist, and they said, hey, I like that, we're gonna use it, we're gonna use that. So they used a term that was used in a derogatory way by a critic to kind of label their own movement, the impression. So you're after the impression. See what I'm doing here? If I want to maybe widen up the glow, right? I have lifted a little bit more paint using a slightly damp brush, right? And try to create a gradation around that. So now I am letting this dry. In fact, maybe I'm going to help it to dry with lamps, right? And because now I want to start working wet on dry, right? So this has to be a little bit drier, okay? So so let's take a short break, right? And then maybe I want to show you the other examples in here, which is a more complex work, still done within 20 minutes. But you see in here, I am in this blue here, and this yellow here cannot mix. This blue and this yellow cannot mix. So what I did in this case, I put water here, all over here, right? Put the sky down. In some cases, I left the white on purpose of the paper. See, that is pure white of the paper. I did not lift that. I just left it white, painted around it. And in this case, in here, instead, I lifted it later. You can lift it either with a brush, by drying up a brush and go there and soaking it out, right, like that, or as I show you with paper towel. So then what I did, I also did this. Put in water all around here, right? In this case, I left also the outline of the furs here because of that golden yellow, and I could not have that bright golden yellow painted over a blue background. That would have been somehow contaminated. The chroma would have been contaminated. So you see, I have now this area here, right? Wetted and put the blue in. This area here, wetted and put the blue in, and then I did not wet these areas in here. See that? But because this did not really need to be super smooth because it's rocks. So what I did, I painted first the yellow all over. The yellow is also under this, right? And then over it, layered a violet gray to create the sense of shadow. That, and this was August, that is snow, right, in the north side of the rim. But that is snow. So it was still there in August. So so this is it's a little bit more planned. You know, the areas I wet, I decide in advance what areas I need to wet and what areas I don't need to wet. So in this case, I needed just basic outlines of this, right? This, just basic outline, and then more or less where the trees are gonna be, right? Here. But for this drawing here, I was painting here, I don't need that. I mean, I could do that. In fact, I did this without any pencil marks because it's fairly simple. The trick in here will be kind of maintain an idea of the perspective by showing two types of perspective. One, of course, because these are mangroves and pretty much have the same height, so it had to be gradually receding as they move away in height. But also the atmospheric perspective. See that how kind of the atmospheric perspective is the color becomes grayer and bluer as it moves away from us, right? Because of the atmosphere, the humidity in the air. So now at this point in here, what I could do, I could block in. Let me see. Let's see if it's ready, right? See if it's ready, and I'm going to block in with this brush here, right? The slightly more defined area here in the sky, right? I don't know how I did it. I did it that straight, but I did it. So, but that is kind of a violet color, right? So I'm gonna mix the violet using the alizarin crimson and because you've seen it's kind of a pure violet, it's kind of nice. It's not really gray. It's grayish because it's on the yellow, but per se the color was pretty clear, pretty pure. So I want to mix enough so that I have enough paint. Hopefully this is gonna go. It's still wet. All right, still wet. But that's fine. That's fine. So it's still wet. See the water kind of. I mean the paper is kind of a little bit buckled, but that's fine. Like we can keep painting. So let me try to do this now. See if I can get it straighter. So a brush like this will help you greatly to keep lines straight. That's probably how I did it the first time. But I noticed that if I do that now, that glow would just spread out more without giving me a firm line of the horizon. I want a straight line for the horizon here, right? So let's do this. I'm gonna take a break, let it dry thoroughly, and if you're in Florida, you get a I don't know what kind of drinks you get in Florida, but you know, you could get a nice cocktail and then you come back a little bit tipsy and relaxed, and then we resume later.